Welcome back, future fire breathers. I'm here today by Steve Cristini, owner of Cristini Athletics, and he's a very special guest. And Steve, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Steve Cristini. I own two fitness facilities, one in Markham, one in Vaughan. Our overall brand is called Cristini Athletics. We've got two individual locations, CrossFit Markham and CrossFit East Woodbridge. I've owned a gym now we're into our 11th year now, and I've been competing in CrossFit for, I guess, basically 11 years. I pretty much started competing almost right away. I am a new dad, and I'm a busy guy.
I can imagine that, especially with quarantine and everything. You're busier than ever. My God. And so what made you want to get into CrossFit, Steve?
Actually, so what really got me into CrossFit, my older brother was kind of like the one who I always chased when I was a kid. I was always just trying to be like him and follow him. And he was basically kind of like my mentor and my inspiration for a lot of things. He was a professional fighter at one point, and I was dabbling in some amateur Muay Thai as well.
Okay.
And he was looking for basically a new way of training. Long story short, he found CrossFit training back in like 2008 when it was very, very underground at the time. Not a lot of people knew about it. And one thing led to another, and we started doing CrossFit in my garage at my parents' house when I was like 18 at the time.
Wow.
And it was just a bunch of like grungy workouts, in a dirty garage with a couple of my cousins who were all like high-level hockey players, my brother, and it was just a couple guys who wanted to kill ourselves in workouts back then. And we got stupid fit, but we didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a couple years later, we opened up a gym, then we opened up a second gym, and then it became a full-fledged family business. My mom is also a partner as well, and she's kind of the one that really got us all into fitness. She's been into fitness my whole life. So yeah, it just basically sparked a big family business, and we just had our 10-year anniversary in September. So we're past that kind of like, 90% of businesses fail within the first 10 years. So we haven't failed, but we're
Nice.
by no means an overnight success. That's for sure.
That's good, man. That's good. So what's been the biggest drastic change for you from going from CrossFit athlete to business owner? What's been the most?
You know what? It's a balance, right? I've
Mm.
been competing the whole time that I've owned the business.
Okay.
I actually think for me, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like being a competitive CrossFit athlete also gives me the same sort of motivation when it comes to business. As an athlete, I'm constantly looking at like, what can I do to get better? What can I make small improvements on? What can I make large improvements on? Where should I put my focus and my time and my energy? And also, where do I test that, right? So I test that in competition. With business, it's how can I continue to make the small things better? How can I continue to make the existing things better? What are ways that I can work on certain things or make improvements, right? So the idea of evolution and improvement, whether it's fitness or whether it's business, becomes the same. And if you are the type of person who wants to be an athlete, you're probably actually, a lot of the times, like if you look at like former NFL and NBA players, and they end up making great businessmen because they've got that drive, right?
Exactly.
And
It's all
the
about
principles, exactly, right? The principles of that mentality, whether it's about sport or it's about business, are the same. It's about getting out of your comfort zone, taking risks, working on your basics, and constantly improving, constant evolution. So it totally goes hand in hand for me because it's all I think about is getting better. And when it comes to, I'm in the gym for working out. That's what I'm thinking about. When I'm behind the computer and I'm thinking about the business, that's what I'm thinking about.
Nice. I like that answer, man. I'm the same way too. I'm running my own supplement company as well. And I can see the parallels between starting my own CrossFit journey and the business side too. It's like the drive that pulls me towards finishing a WOD or a Metcon is what pulls me through the business stuff too.
You know what? And even those workouts too, they make you mentally stronger. Not a lot of opportunities in life, outside of like actual sport. So if you're going through life and you're not an athlete, not a lot of things in life outside of work challenge your mentality to get you out of your comfort zone, right? Like in our regular life, like playing video games or going out with your friends, like none of those things are making you mentally stronger a lot of the times. But there's something to be said about like pushing yourself through a really tough workout, something that you hate, something that you don't want to do, or something that you're bad at. When you do that on the norm, like that actually starts to define who you are. Like it's talking about like making small habits, and that becomes who you are. For example, like if you're a smoker, you're a smoker because you consistently smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a habit in you that you do on a consistent basis that makes you a smoker. If you're a mentally tough person, it's because you constantly put yourself through mentally tough situations, right? And for example, a lot of CrossFit training it's a lot of these really sucky moments. And if you're used to going through that suffering, all of a sudden when you're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable at work or I'm uncomfortable in my relationship, am I just going to run or am I going to go through it like I normally would? Well, if you have those habits that you normally go through those sucky moments, guess what? You're probably going to be willing to take it on head on as opposed to running away from it.
That's a good way to look at it too. It's like, especially with the smoking analogy, if you get someone who's addicted to smoking, they're going to be addicted to other things in life too, right? Same principle with the
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit. So I want to ask you, Steve, when you were starting your CrossFit, was there any particular coach that guided you along the right path?
No. I started CrossFit a really, really long time ago.
Yeah.
The competitive side of CrossFit back then it wasn't what it is now. It wasn't, now it's a true sport. Like there's real periodization throughout the year. There's, there's the size of the competitions alone, the level of competition, the level of the strength of the athletes. Back then there was no coaches on YouTube. There was nobody teaching you how to do things. There was no seminars. There was nothing. A lot of it was really, really self-taught, which is what I think actually made us better coaches because we made all the mistakes, right? Like I learned how to not lift. I learned how to hurt your back and how to not hurt your back, right? Because there was nobody to teach us back then. It was like I said, it really was the journey of me and my brother and a couple friends on the competitive side. Of course, there was other people with us, but we learned all the wrong things. But the cool thing is what I did learn is that if somebody new came in and they want to be competitive, I know how to do what took me 10 years to do. I can make it happen for them in 4 years because I can make sure that they don't do all the things that are going to waste their time or that are going to have them have setbacks.
Nice. It's like the biggest lessons are learned in the failures and not actually wins too, right?
And life is all about the failures. You don't learn by winning. Winning is not where you learn anything. Winning is where you just solidify what you have hopefully learned previously. But it's all in the failures. Everything in life is all about the failures. Where you screw up, that's when we look back and like, shit, what do I need to fix for next time? What do I need to do better for next time?
Exactly. And like it's like the analogy that people use. It's like failure is not the opposite of success, right? It's part of success.
It's
so
the road.
More you fail, the more times you succeed too.
Yep.
And like, what's been the biggest mentality shift for you that you gained from actually starting CrossFit, besides the whole mental toughness and everything? Was it about form, or was it more about the whatever?
I mean, I could dive like really deep into more of the mental side. Because for me, growing up, I wasn't super athletic. Like I was very short, and then when I got taller, I was very skinny. I've got this analogy of myself called Skinny Steve, and Skinny Steve was kind of like my alter ego, not in a good way. That was very insecure and very just didn't have a lot of self-confidence. And really, what it was for me, the biggest shift that happened in my life was that those kind of self-esteem issues, the self-confidence issues, a lot of it went away when I started getting stronger, getting a little bit more muscular. And it wasn't so much that I have big muscles. I still think I don't have big muscles. I gained a lot of self-confidence, and the building that foundation of self-confidence was actually what sparked everything else. Because if I didn't have self-confidence, then I wouldn't have even competed. I could have had all the skill in the world, but if I still never had that self-confidence, I would have never put myself out there. I would have never started competing. I would have never taken chances at potentially losing or failure, right? Because that's what's the scariest thing for us.
That's awesome, man. And if someone was supposed to come into, like, they're complete CrossFit newbie, they have self-confidence issues, they go into the box, they see all these big muscular guys just doing handstand push-ups, and they feel a little intimidated, what would you say to them in that situation?
You know what? A lot of the times I go back to myself. I'll talk to them from experience because I was intimidated too back when I started. And I'll let them know, like, hey, like trying anything new is sometimes it's scary. And you're also going to look at other people and see like, wow, like they're huge or they're this or they're that. And it's like, listen, they all started at the same point as you did. Everybody is on a path and everybody is starting life and starting CrossFit or starting fitness or whatever on different paths. as long as you're willing to look at yourself and take small steps towards more and more success, you're going to be just fine here. And in fact, you're probably going to have a lot of fun. It's getting past that kind of first day, first week where it's like, you know what, I can do this. And again, it comes down to that self-confidence. It's like, it's not about having handstand push-ups right away. I'll even tell people, I'm like, I couldn't do handstand push-ups for over 2 years, like
Wow.
for over two. And back, this is there was no such thing as kipping handstand push-ups. It was just, I would kick up on the wall. Yeah, we didn't know what kipping handstand push-ups were. I would kick up on the wall.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I didn't know it was that new, kipping handstand push-ups.
Well, it's not that new anymore, but again, I've been doing CrossFit for so long.
Yeah.
And I'll let them know, like, listen, I couldn't do any of these things. And I'll show them old videos and be like, listen, you're in the same place I was. I'm just 10 years ahead of you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're willing to, deal with your own path, you're going to be just fine.
Okay, that's good, man. That's a good piece of advice too. And your CrossFit competitions, the first one you ever went to, were you scared to go in, or were you like, you know what?
Oh man,
I've
been competing for 10 years. I'm still scared to go in every single
Oh
time.
yeah.
Oh yeah, because there's nerves, right? Like,
Exactly.
but it's a good thing, right? Like you those moments in life, like, kind of show you what you're worth. I was totally scared my first competition, but it was also, back then, I didn't have as much expectations of myself.
Okay.
Now I have higher expectations of myself. And then after a little while, you maybe get a little bit of outside expectations. People know your name. People expect you to be at a certain level. People expect you to do certain things. And you don't want to not live up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So totally, I'm still getting nervous, but it's embracing those nerves, because again, those are the opportunities in life where we get to test ourselves and see what we're made of. Because again, outside of work, where do you get that how often do you get those butterflies in your stomach and you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel I a sleepless night beforehand, and like, but when it's all said and done, you're always like, I'm so glad I did that.
Mm-hmm. That is good, man. That is good. And for your competitions and everything, what would you say? How do I phrase this in question? What would you say was the biggest thing that you gained from the competitions, and what made you want to keep going and going again? Some people, they go to the first competition, they'd be like, you know what, this is not for me. I'm just going to stick to just doing my own stuff. But what made you want to keep going back and back again?
You know what? I think it was the test, right? Like, I think I had a little bit of drive, and I think for the first time in life, I was realizing, like, you know what, I think I can be good at this, and I'd like to see myself climb up the ranks. I'd like to see myself make it to higher level events or place higher. And it was more personal satisfaction. It was just like, I'm starting to believe in myself, and I want to be able to put in the work so that this way I can continue moving up. And it's not so much, by no means was it like, I need to win a competition so that this way I look like a badass. It's not that. It was like, I want to be able just to do better, because it's like, it validates my own hard work, but it was also really fun. We had a cool group of people that I trained with, and it was a lot of fun to train with them. I got to the point that I knew a lot of the people that I competed with, and it was fun to compete against them.
Mm-hmm.
It was partly just fun.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And what would you say is harder for you right now in your CrossFit experience? Is it to live up to the expectations of others for you, or is it to live up to the expectations for yourself?
No, it's purely myself. I would like to say that I am 100% internally motivated, which is not the case. Everyone has a little bit of, external motivation.
Exactly.
But no, honestly, I do this for me. I do this for passion.
Okay.
For example, now, like, I compete on team. Like, I pretty much only compete team.
Mm-hmm.
I've competed individually for years, and part of the reason now I compete on a team, though, is because I genuinely enjoy the time leading up to the events, because I'm training with my friends. Like, I'm training with a good group of friends. They help me get better on certain things because they're better than me at certain aspects, and I'm better at them at certain aspects. So we create this culture and this environment of like, of everybody wants to get better, but we also want to have a really good time. And then afterward, we're going to get together and go for barbecue and stuff like that, because we have a close relationship. And when I do get to go compete, they're awesome experiences. Like, I've now competed around the world, and every time I get to compete, it's an incredible experience. And I have personal goals, and I have for example, we went to compete in Brazil and we placed 5th place. And
Okay.
to me, we came back and everyone's congratulating us and like, great job, you guys did great. And if I used that as my motivation, I would have been like, oh, I did great. But personally, I wasn't at all satisfied with coming 5th place. It was like, if that particular event with who was there and what I expected of ourselves, we should have been standing on the podium. And if we weren't standing on the podium, I wasn't happy. And it has nothing to do with what other people think. It was just, that's what I personally wanted.
You got that winning mindset in you. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. It's definitely like and again, it's not so much that being on the podium validated what I wanted, but based on what my realistic expectations of knowing the people that were there, knowing what we could have done, I would have been more satisfied with a 3rd place because that's what I think we could have earned. And again, it's not because I had a medal. It's more so just because that's what I think we could have done and we didn't do it. So on that, for example, I was like, not happy with it. But on other times, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with this performance, but maybe other people were expecting more, and that's fine. It's not why I'm here.
Okay, I get you. And if someone else was supposed to come to the whole competition area and they had this big lofty expectations that they want to place first in every competition, but they're brand new, what would you do would you like support those goals, or would you take them to like a step backwards and try to work through it? What's your
over the years, I've had a lot of people come into the gym and they say, I want to go to the games,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or they say, I want to make it to regionals, which doesn't exist anymore, but whatever.
Yeah.
And it comes down to a series of questions, because it's not, by no means do I think it's like, oh, well, you're not going to make it there. Like, who the hell am I to say that? Like, and in all honesty, I wasn't an athletic person growing up, so why should I make it to the CrossFit Games and somebody else doesn't get to make it to the CrossFit Games, right? It's like, if I can do it, in my honest opinion, like, I feel like anyone can do it if I can do it, because I'm not special. I'm not genetically gifted. I'm not exceptional at sports, right? So why can't they? But now what it comes down to is, what are your life's priorities? Because if you came to me in 2012 and said, I want to make the games, versus 2016, the games are very different. In 2012, it'd be like, okay, dedicate a year of a decent amount of training, you could potentially make it to the games. And that was a reality, right? Now it's like, even 2016, let alone now that there's even new format, it's like, okay, are you willing to train minimum 3 to 4 hours a day? Are you willing to go to bed early? Are you willing to become socially different? Like, anybody who wants to make it to the CrossFit Games, you got to realize you're going to make a lot of sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to hang out with your friends as often. When they want to go out to a club, you're going to be like, no, I got to train the next morning. Or even if it's a rest day, you're going to be like, no, I need to meal prep and I need to stretch and I need to relax at home. You're going to be unrelatable, and you need to be willing to take on all those things. And again, this is to say, like, I want to be a games athlete. Like, if those are the things that you want, we can make this happen. Anyone can make this happen. But you need to be willing to make a lot of sacrifices. You need to be willing to put in a lot of time. And then on top of it, you need to realize, like, this isn't a 1-year thing. This is probably like a 4 to 5 year thing. And then even when you're extremely close, you still might not make it. And that's not me being negative. That's just me being honest. Like, you might do all the right things, go to the right competition, and still bomb, or still just not be good enough. And like, that's sport, right? Like,
Exactly.
how many guys in the NBA are Hall of Famers that don't have a ring?
Exactly. Same thing with the Super Bowl. How many teams actually get to go to the Super Bowl and win too, right?
Exactly.
So it just comes down to the expectations. Would you say that's the most important thing to have as a CrossFitter, or even as like a CrossFit newbie, where you have these realistic expectations in mind?
Definitely need some realistic expectations, but I think the biggest thing needs to be a mindset of enjoying training for the sake of enjoying training. There are people who come in, and I've seen a lot of people come in who want to make it to the games or make it to be a competitive athlete. And the only reason that they want to do that is because they want to be able to be a competitive athlete. Mm-hmm. It's not because they love training, right? And those are the ones who I see fall off the quickest, because the training isn't always fun. Like, it's not about fun. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. You're going to put in a lot of time. And then, say you put in a year's worth of work and you go to a competition and you don't do well, those people crumble the hardest. The ones who genuinely love the training, genuinely love the process, those are going to be the ones who are going to stick around long enough to actually make it to being any sort of higher level athlete. So realistically, yeah, you definitely need some realistic expectations, but don't get me wrong, like shoot for the stars. Like if you asked me when I was first starting CrossFit, like did I ever think I'd make it to the CrossFit Games? Like at the beginning, I would have said hell no. But the first year, in 2012, I went to go watch the CrossFit Games in person with my at the time, my girlfriend, who's my now wife. And I said to her, in 5 years, I'm going to be on that floor. I said, and I was already 4 years into CrossFit at that time. And I said, in 5 years, I'm going to make it to the CrossFit Games on that floor. 5 years later, 2016 was the first year we made it to the CrossFit Games. And it was like, and I remember saying to her, I was like, remember what I said 5 years ago? And that was a long-term thing. And that was, but even for that to happen, the stars aligned. We got the right people together for a team that year. We had a great year and we made it. So be realistic, but be kind of unrealistic too. Like what the hell, why not shoot for the stars? But just know that there is a lot of sacrifice, a lot of changes that you need to be okay with. And, realistically too, you need a good support system around you. If you have a wife or kids or anything like that, and, your time is needed there, you got to be willing to be selfish, and you need people around you to understand that you're probably going to be a little bit selfish to make these things happen, and that needs to be okay. And if that's not okay, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a really tough balance of, I need to all this time for myself, but I also know that people around me don't want me, not to say that they don't want you to have that time, but it doesn't always work.
I guess it's like the journey, not the destination. Right?
1,000%, because the destination, even if you do make it, the destination is one weekend of your life. What about the years leading up to that? Because if you didn't enjoy the years leading up to that, I've also seen a lot of people make it to the CrossFit Games and then never make it back again, or quit right after because they realized it wasn't worth it. And that's for them, but that's because they didn't value the lead up.
Because they just hold that destination to such a big pedestal, it just squashes down the expectations for the next time.
Totally.
And you mentioned support systems before too. How influential was your wife, Jordana, to this whole CrossFit training process, to your whole business owner life as well?
If I didn't have her, I would still be Skinny Steve #1. Like she at the time, even leading up to training, she would be there hanging out just because it was time that we could still spend time together. But at least I'd be training and she'd be just there. She makes all of my food, meal prepping leading up to the games and in general in life. Like she's always helped me with that. She's also a nutritionist too. So she's always kind of kept me in check in terms of like, am I eating enough? Am I drinking enough water? Am I being on top of my meal timing? And then, she's also there for the failures, right? She's there to help me when things don't go well. She's there to help me mentally, keep my shit together essentially. Because, there are times that things don't go well and you're not happy about it. I probably wouldn't be anywhere without her.
That's good. So it's really important to have that support system in place. That's good,
definitely.
Man. And right now you're new father, so congratulations for that. How do you balance between being a new father, a husband, a CrossFitter, and a business owner as well? How do you balance all of those 4 elements?
Yeah, it's definitely certain things take the back burner, right? I probably wake up earlier than I ever have because I'm trying to find free time, right? Like one thing, if you said like, what's a great way to be a better CrossFitter? It'd be like sleep more, right? The more you recover, the more you, the better you can get, right? So I probably sleep less than I used to, so that this way I can get up earlier so that I can get to work sooner. Finding more free hours in the day, that's the hard thing, right? So it's like get up, go to the gym, get to work early, so that this way I can have a little bit of time in the afternoon to train. I used to probably spend more, definitely leading up to the games, like in 2016, I was probably training at least 4 hours a day. And realistically though, like if you could shorten that up, because some of the times it's like, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of time recovering. I'll stretch in between this and I'll do this and I'll do this. My training now is at most 2 hours. It's more
Okay.
like 90 minutes to 2 hours, but I make the most of that time, right? It's as you've also kind of gone along your fitness journey, you get a lot better at things. So kind of a lot of the things that you maybe weren't so good at, you've gotten better at. So you don't necessarily need to put as much time into those things. If you've got 10 holes and you filled 8 of them over the course of a couple of years, you only got really 2 holes to really focus on, right? So it's making the best use of your time in terms of training now. And it's like, okay, well, what do I really need to do? Do I really need to go snatch? Not really. I'm okay. I'm pretty good at snatching. I probably should go run. And instead of me doing snatches and running today, I'm just going to run. So, certain things will definitely take the back burner so that this way you can maintain some time to balance. But honestly, right now, it's like nothing to me is more important than spending time with my kid, with my daughter.
Exactly.
So if it's like I want to leave so that I can go see her, then it's like, you know what, screw training today. I'm going to go see her because training will always be there. She's in this like super cute stage right now. And I'm like, who knows
You want to
what it's
cherish
going to
that.
be. Exactly. Right. So you definitely shift your priorities based on what you want out of life. And again, that's also part of the reason why I compete on a team. I know that if I wanted to compete at a high level as an individual, I would need to still be training 4 hours a day. I would need to be training more for me to be at that level. I am a good team athlete. I'm like really good at team style events because a lot of the times it's shorter duration, or it's like high power output, or it's higher skill, lift a big weight, or, do certain things where it's not necessarily the same as individual. And I've gotten good at those things. So I don't have to dedicate as much time to it. There she is. It's okay. So I can put in less time training and still be able to compete at a high level by being a team athlete. So that this way I can do all those other things in life.
It sounds like your daughter's calling you, man. So I'm gonna end it real quick. Last question before I leave you off here.
Sure.
In your mind, what does it mean to be an athlete?
I think it has to do with the desire to want to get better, right? Like in anything in life, if it's just wanting to push the envelope, wanting to get better, wanting to make improvements, looking into yourself and saying, well, what could I have done better next time? What can I improve on? And testing it also, because it's great to just train and train and train and train. But at some point you got to put a little bit of like, okay, let me see what I've done with all this training, or whatever it is in life, right? It's like saying I want to play soccer, but all I do is play by myself. Like, great. Like, are you an athlete or are you a soccer enthusiast? Right? It's like an
Okay.
athlete competes.
Got it. That makes sense. Because there's a big difference between CrossFitters and just fitness enthusiasts who are just
You know
there.
what? And it's funny. I don't even use, a lot of the times it's like CrossFitters, in my opinion, like are people who do CrossFit. CrossFit athletes are people who test themselves.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks for your time today, Steve. I really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to your daughter and your family. Enjoy your rest of the Saturday. And just
Thanks a
stay
lot, man.
safe, stay healthy, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
No problem.